From Washington, this is VOA News. Fighting in eastern Ukraine raises tensions in preparation for Sunday's election. Boko Haram seen as small but powerful in Borno. I'm Vincent Bruce reporting from Washington. As Sunday's presidential election nears, there are more reported battles between Russian-backed rebels and Ukrainian government troops in eastern Ukraine. VOA's Al Pessin has more from Kiev.
The two opposing sides this week launched a series of attacks on each other in the east. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called the violence a full-scale civil war. Reporter Patrick Wells in Donetsk says that's not the case, but violence is increasing. After months of protests, many Ukrainians are hoping the presidential election will move the country toward normalcy. Al Pessin, VOA News, Kiev.
Kashim Shettima is the Nigerian state governor whose region is considered the base for Boko Haram. Shettima says the militants are small in numbers but are having a huge and destructive impact. Nigerian officials believe Boko Haram is responsible for a string of atrocities across the country. The group claimed responsibility for last month's kidnapping of 276 schoolgirls and is believed to be behind twin bombings in Jos this week that killed at least 130 people. In an interview with VOA's Hausa service, Borno State Governor Shettima said the group's relatively small size has not prevented it from wreaking havoc across Nigeria.
Just a band of terrorists, 50, 100, can really hold a whole community to ransom because, one, they are indigenous to that land. Secondly, they are the ones setting the pace of the war.
Shettima says Boko Haram's actions have put Borno State in the news for all the wrong reasons. More details on these stories at voanews.com. A U.S. judge has allowed the military to resume force-feeding a prisoner at Guantanamo Bay, but urged authorities to explore alternative methods. The district judge lifted a temporary ban against force-feeding Syrian prisoner Abu Wal-Diab, saying there is a real probability he would die if not fed. Lawyers for Diab argue that the force-feeding, which includes restraining the prisoner and inserting a tube through his nose, is abusive and illegal. They say the detainee is willing to be fed at a hospital if he can be spared the pain of the current procedure. The Pentagon says it only feeds prisoners against their will to keep them alive. Reports say ousted Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra and dozens of other political figures appear to have been detained after arriving for meetings with military leaders who took power in a coup this week. After being summoned by the army, Ms. Yingluck and others arrived in a military installation in Bangkok Friday. Military officials are quoted as confirming that Ms. Yingluck is now in custody. Thursday's coup was without violence, although military leaders also ordered a nighttime curfew nationwide and suspended the Constitution. U.S. Ambassador to Thailand, Christy Kenny, told VOA's Steve Herman on Friday that Washington is concerned about the human rights situation.
The Thais will, of course, chart their own path. But as Secretary of State Kerry has said, we really do call for an immediate return to a civilian government, the lifting of press restrictions, respect for human rights, and a path to elections.
Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan is heading to Germany on this Saturday in hopes of boosting his widely expected presidential bid in August's election. But Mr. Erdogan is under intense criticism for his handling of this month's mining disaster, and questions are being raised about how much damage it has caused his candidacy. Dorian Jones has a report from Istanbul.
The repercussions of Turkey's worst mining disaster continue to be felt on the streets of Istanbul, where 2 people have died during clashes with the police that began Thursday. Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan appeared to intensify public anger when he says he does not understand why the police have been so patient with the protesters. A 30-year-old man, fatally wounded Thursday, was hit by a stray bullet fired by police, according to officials' accounts. Even before the latest incident, Mr. Erdogan was already under fire over alleged government corruption. Public opinion polls show roughly equal numbers of Turks support and oppose the Prime Minister. Dorian Jones of VOA News, Istanbul, Turkey.
The United States and top European missions in Libya. European Union, Britain, France, Germany, and Italy have expressed concern about the rising violence in Libya. I'm Vincent Bruce in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.